Let's take a look at one more example from the book, example 1.4 of an argument from another context. And here it's coming from a kind of a scientific study, or it's at least using the results of a scientific study to try to prove a point. And let's read through and see what he's saying. Drinking age law may encourage minors to drink. The 21-year-old drinking age might actually encourage minors to drink. According to a new study, which showed that 81% of underage students admitted using alcohol, while only 75% of students over 21 said they consumed alcohol. So 24% of underage students, also 24% of underage students were heavy drinkers, compared to 15% of those of legal age considered heavy drinkers. That is, 24% underage students are heavy drinkers, 15% heavy drinkers. Argument bringing in some scientific facts. Now, I don't know, I'm not even going to ask you to look at it. That is, I think there's a lot of room, or there are a lot of places where you might question the assumptions and what they're getting to. That is, it makes it, given what it says literally on top, it says the drinking law may encourage minors to drink. But there's one way of understanding the argument that's what he's really saying is that the drinking law at 21 does encourage minors to drink. I mean, so what he says is he makes a very modest claim there. And nonetheless, I mean, there's a lot to analyze from this. It involves statistics. It involves whether there are random samples. It really requires a lot of analysis. And we don't want to spend the time right now analyzing this argument. Maybe we'll get back to it later in the semester. But there is a point that I'm trying to get to. And, the point is, in understanding argument, that there's something common to all of these examples. First of all, the author is trying to establish a point. She is trying to get you to believe something, to agree with him or her about something, and they're trying to establish the point. That is, they're concluding something, or they're trying to get you to a conclusion. And we'll spend a little time figuring out what exactly a conclusion is. And notice, he or she is providing you with reasons that are intended to support the point. Not only are they saying, hey, this is what you ought to believe, but they're saying, this is why you ought to believe it. Now, when you put it together, those reasons are what we call premises. So notice the reasons, the premises, and the point of the argument make up an argument. That is, when you're looking to figure out what are all the parts of the argument, they're really two different kinds of parts. One is the point, the conclusion of the argument, and the other one is the set of statements. Remember, going back to our old definitions, the reasons are statements. So we have statements that are supposed to lead us to a conclusion, and that is exactly what an argument is. And I think we can sum up what we know about arguments by defining the particular terms to make sure, because it's always helpful to make sure we understand what we're talking about. Notice we tried to define argument, reason, logic, but I think we want to get really precise, and philosophers in general like to be very precise about the meaning of the terms that they're using. And here is what I'm going to call the anatomy of an argument. And there are three definitions. First, there are three definitions. Sorry. The first is that of an argument. D1. An argument is a set of statements that are intended to provide reasons or evidence for, justify, or logically lead to the belief in another statement. Now the next definition, notice an argument's defined in terms of reasons, and it's supposed to lead to something. Well, what does it lead to? The conclusion. So the second definition, D2, is that the conclusion of an argument is the statement that the argument is intended to establish. A conclusion is the point of the argument, what the other statements are supposed to establish, justify, logically lead to. And finally, D3, the definition of a premise, or the premises of an argument, are the statements that are intended to support the conclusion. So from now on, during the course of the semester, whenever we're talking about an argument, we already know we're not talking about a heated dispute, we're not talking about a fight, we're not talking about anything like that. We're talking about a set of statements. And there are going to be some statements, could be one or more, that are the premises of the argument. Those are the assumptions that you're making, the premises, and they're supposed to lead logically to give good reason for believing the conclusion, which is the point of the argument.